Demonstrating here how you can use VS Code, which will work similar to your Eclipse, and basically you will be working on a project on a remote server where you will have your project as AMS core, and I'll be demonstrating how you can develop, edit, and deploy directly using VS Code on the remote server like you do in the Eclipse. Uh, as you can see, I'm taking an example of a machine called dev 1.ag Trillion, and there is nothing is running. You can see the web server is giving me as a rejected. So I'll be starting my VS Code over here. I have already configured the remote machine directly. As you can see, it's asking for me the password of the user. After enabling it, it connects the machine, and you can see over here, like you see, it's doing a lot of the things. These are the extensions that I have already loaded based on the project that you have. You can see one is a community server, which is basically Tomcat deployment connector on the remote machine. The below you see Java project. This is a Java project configured here to read all the Java libraries or the configuration that you have configured, and obviously from here directly you can use this arrow to export it to directly Java file or maybe the var file, whatever you choose to. Below you have AMS core Maven. From here obviously you can choose to install all the dependencies directly from here. You can also, by clicking on the life cycle, do a clean Maven. These are manual, but by default if you do any changes in your pom.xml file or any of the configuration, the Java rebuilds the application and it deploys. So I'll just demonstrate here. This was a view just for your all your information. Here is the file section. This is the repository section of the file. I have directly configured the AMS core repo subdirectory of your AMS master repository. I have already added the AMS core repository in the Java as a Java project. AMS also similarly I have done that. Over here I have opened POM.xml file. Here you have tabs called problems, output, test result, terminal, ports, export. So basically you also have debug. Basically debug console is something you can choose to debug your project, which will show you the output. In the problem statement, the by default VS Code reads your repository, projects, and the configuration that you have made, and obviously the libraries that you are using in terms of Maven or Java. It reads and let you know whether these are there any problem, are there any vulnerabilities in your system which you can choose to fix. Like you see, it's reading the POM.xml and it's identifying the vulnerabilities that you have in your code directly. In the output, whenever you do changes and the application reconfiguration, you will see over there. In the terminal, it directly gives you a CLI console of your repository. If you want to do any manual configuration or execution, you can do it directly from here. So like I will just now we'll go ahead in terms of how I can set up the Tomcat directly from here on the server, the remote server, which is dev, and then I'll demonstrate how I am doing live changes and it's applying on the server. I'll click on the output console so that you can see what's happening. Again, I'll re-show here. This is the machine. Now there is no Tomcat running, and obviously no project working. So I'll, on the community server, the section that you see here, I'll right click and choose to create a new server. In this section, it asks whether you want to it asks you whether you want to download a server, yes, or you want to you can choose no, use server on disk. So this option, which means if you choose yes, it asks you the version of Apache, Tomcat, or any of the web server that you want to deploy. Which means it will deploy that web server directly on your remote machine. If you choose no and use the server on disk, which means your web server is already configured on your machine on the remote server, and you want to use that and synchronize directly from the already installed server and your repository over here. So I'll do for your use case, generally what you do on your Eclipse, you set up Tomcat and then rebuild it from directly. So similarly over here I'll choose yes, You can see it's asking me different web servers, and also for Apache Tomcat I am getting different versions. I'll choose 8.5.0, which you people want as a standard working configuration for your app VSCode. Obviously license is you have to choose yes. Once you do that, you can see over here it's installing. You can see over here it's installing. You have to wait. Once it installed, you can see it states Apache Tomcat 5.8.5.0 has been installed. Currently in a stop state, and I want you to focus on the output also. I'll just for now close the workflow license. You can choose to do no, not save, and I want you to focus on the output. So when I do Tomcat start, what it will do, it will rebuild your from your repository. It will do a maven clean and then start the server. So I'll click on right click and do start server. You should see output coming over here. So these are the output that you see, and it saves here it started. So if I go on the browser and I do dev and hit the link, you should see fresh Tomcat installed. If I click on the app manager, obviously I have not configured anything, so it's saying that I need to configure. There is an access denied. So this is going to be an example of live configuration. So over here you see I'm getting 403 access denied. You are already aware for to fix this you need to configure these parameters for the user access under the configuration.tomcat user XML file. So what I'll do, I'll go back to VS Code. I'll right click on that server that I have deployed. I'll do server action. You need to do, so whatever server changes that you want to do on the Apache, you need to choose server action. So if I do server action, it will ask whether you want to open the application directly on the browser or you want to edit the configuration file. So over here I'm doing edit the configuration file. It's asking me what it's currently giving me two options. So I'll choose XML. I'm not doing anything over here. What I'll do, I'll use this path. So you can see the entire path. You also from here in the path you can also understand where they actually Tomcat got installed. So under username Sujit there is a .rsp file, and that's the folder for the community server which is installed, and under that runtime installation it has installed under the Tomcat under the folder called Tomcat-8.5.50. So like I said, I want to configure this user so that I'm able to configure this user. I know this file path is conf/tomcat-user.xml. I'll click on there, and from the conf path I'll open it, and I have here Tomcat. I have the file over here, and again you all have to, again I'll be making some changes here, and you have to focus on the output side. Once I make the changes and save it, you will see it doing maven clean in your repository itself and in building the var file under your target directory. So I already have a configuration configured over here. So I'm configuring manager UI with the username Tomcat and the password being secret. I simply copy that and under the Tomcat user XML file I'll do an enter and paste that. Simple. Now I'll save this. You have to focus over here what it does in the output. If I do click and save, you will see it does maven clean. It builds our package which it did, and it did, and it started the application was already running. It did not do a restart. If I go on your Tomcat and I do manager app, so sometime it does not work directly. So what you have to do, you have to right click and stop the server and then start again. So I've done that again. And this time it did not do maven clean because it simply needed to restart the Tomcat server. If I hit again and go into manager app, it's giving me some issue. Yeah, I forgot. I need to also configure the network. By default, Tomcat does only allows access from its local machine. If you're outside the network, you need to edit one more file which is called context. This is the file that we need to configure. This was the older file, and it's in the web apps manager meta and this. So what I'll do from here itself, I'll click over here Apache root folder. I'll go into the web apps. I'll go into the manager, and I'll open meta and the context file. This is the important line. This is something is the line that you need to delete. if you want to allow all the network to be able to hit there. So I'll do that. Again, I'm be saving here, and again it will be doing a Maven clean and rebuild. So I'm saving the file. It is doing the same thing, cleaning the package and rebuilding the app. You will also see it's building under here, under your target slash am score, what AMS score snapshot, and it started, and it did not do any restart, but we'll see whether it works right now. It should work. It should be working. And you can, it did not ask me the password because I had already saved it in my Chrome. So you can say it's working now. So this is a real example of how you can do a live demo. Here I'll be making some changes in your pom.xml file. I will simply deleting this additional entries, not making change into in your code. So as you can see, I'll be doing delete these line, the additional lines. Just an example that how it live development works. So I made a simple change, and if I do a save, it will work in Maven clean and rebuild it. You can see it. So it's asking, do you want to? I will say always. It will. So these are basic things that it will VS Code will recommend you to solve. You should do what it recommending, so that it then becomes smart enough to take necessary action whenever you are rebuilding whenever your application is being rebuilt. So these are some of the issues with your library, I believe, with your pom.xml. Something I think you people are good enough to fix this. But this is a real example how you can do this. The other option, obviously, here you will say, okay, I am able to see the Tomcat running, but I am not seeing my AMS code. For that, as I said, you need to configure deployment. So by right clicking over here, you will also additionally, when you do changes, you will additionally see here configure your Java version and all. But now I am configuring the deployment. You need to add a deployment, which means like it's similar to you adding a var file if you want to, or maybe jar file, or you can directly tell it to use the entire folder. So if you choose file, then you will have to locate the file of your AMS core var if you are creating a var file or a jar file, or else you want to use the live directory of yours, you can simply choose explode. When it explodes, it asks you the path of your repository which you want. You can choose. I am not sure about what do you choose in your repository here. I think you can take that call. For now, what I am doing, I am telling it to use AMS core. So I am doing OK, and it asking me to do if you want to do any additional deployment parameter configuration. So I'm not aware about any additional configuration and obviously this is not this video is not about that. Maybe I'll do that later if you want it, but I'll choose no here. So once I do it creates a synchronized link between your repository and the AMS code. So if I do direct enter here, I am not seeing anything. So what I'll do, I'll do a stop and start again. Also, you need to, for this to be synchronized, sometimes it asks you to do a full publish server, but for now I'll see if this works. So you can see it's synchronized. It is synchronized here. So if I refresh this, I should see, yes, you can see your AMS over here, right? It says true, but you will get some other application issue. I think this is something you can fix. It may be something to do with permission, I believe. Let's see if I can fix this, or maybe I'll rather say you take a call and you fix it. But this was a demonstration like everything works in the VS Code. If you give your time, you just need to explore it. It has better things, a better feature available in comparison to your Eclipse. I hope you can follow this guide and get back to using VS Code and move on from your local laptop to using the remote server, because in coming few days your IT team will be taking the necessary action in removing your locally hosted project and obviously access to those projects. They can also I believe they will also delete your profile and recreate a new one. So that's the call. But the sooner you choose this, additionally I'll say you can take a look of all the extension that I have installed. These are the extension that you need to install for the remote. So this is telling me what all extension I am using for my remote deployment over this remote machine. So I'm just scrolling down slowly. You can on your system, on your VS Code, search these extension in your VS Code and make sure that you install it, and you make sure whatever instruction is giving you to configure, you just follow those paths, and then I think rest will be easier. Obviously, once you install all these packages, all these extensions, some are maybe not be required for your cases, but I have installed what I believe would be beneficial. Then you will get these options over your Maven, Java projects, and the server. Obviously, first you need to configure your Java by simply for Maven, just simply clicking plus and locating your repository. In the similarly in the Java project, clicking plus and obviously mapping the repository repo or the project webbook. Once you have done that, it will scan your entire project. It will do a lot of things. As a VS Code, it is kind of a smart application, a smart ID. It scans your entire repository and identifies if there are certain additional configuration that it requires to do on your remote machine. So it will do that. It will do that automatically. So you have to give some time for some minutes, for some 30 minutes, or maybe you will require to restart a few times your VS Code. In that, doing that, it configures itself on the remote machine, so that next time it is ready to do for your deployment. It is ready with everything for your deployment. So you have to make sure that you do that, install all the extension, map it, and give it a time to analyze your repository, analyze your project folders, and install the necessary and configure the necessary requirement that it needs to to help you with the development of your projects. So you need to make sure that you follow that. And once you have done that, it is simple. Simply you can always, like you can see over here, I don't need to do anything. I can simply close this VS Code, and in a similar manner, so if I do here, I believe it's closed. If you close the VS Code, it is closed. If I start it VS Code, it will automatically connect me to the remote machine, asking me the credential of the system, which I'll add it over here. And once the password credential is correctly added, it will obviously I have not added the create password. I'll do that again. And yeah, so that's again it, you are back to your system where you left earlier when you exited, and it will reload everything, and it will also start your server also in the last state it was. So you can see it also readies everything here. I may have not saved it, and that is the reason it got executed, but you can always right click and do a reinstallation. For some reason I'm not getting here what happened. Maybe it's reading still. If I do here, it's doing something. Yeah, you can see it loaded. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you can follow this video. Thank you so much.